The moon hung low in the night sky, casting eerie shadows on the walls of an old, decrepit mansion. Tonight was no ordinary night. It was All Hallows Eve, and the air was thick with an ominous sense of foreboding. The house, known by the locals as the Pit, was the centerpiece of whispered rumors and morbid folklore. People said that decades ago it had been the site of dark rituals and inhuman sacrifices. Inside, a circle of candles flickered in a dusty room, casting their light upon an ancient book that lay open on a rickety wooden table. The symbols inked on its pages seemed to writhe and pulse as if alive. Sarah, a young woman of indeterminate age, stared at the book, her eyes drawn to the incantations. She had come seeking power, unaware that the power she sought would come at a price far greater than she could imagine. A clock in the corner of the room struck midnight, signaling the time had come. With trembling hands, Sarah began to chant the words, unleashing an energy that shook the very foundations of the house. The air turned thick and suffocating, as if the room itself disapproved of the incantations. The candles flickered erratically, casting ever-changing patterns on the walls. A shiver ran down the spine of the individual who had just uttered the incantations. A sound, almost like a whisper but not quite human, seemed to fill the room, echoing from the walls and the very fabric of reality. The ancient book snapped shut abruptly, as if rejecting the curiosity that had led to its opening. The candles extinguished, plunging the room into darkness, save for an otherworldly glow emanating from where the book had lain. This was the moment, the point of no return. The essence of countless souls trapped in the demonic covenant felt their eternal torment intensify, sensing a new presence joining their ranks. Then a figure materialized in the pitch black, barely perceptible yet undeniably there. Its form was nebulous, but its eyes, oh its eyes, burned with a malevolent fire. As the nebulous figure loomed closer, the room seemed to contract, its walls closing in like the belly of some great beast. Shadows stretched longer, darker, becoming more tangible, as if they were entities themselves, ready to consume any who dared to delve into this dark rite. The sense of dread was almost palpable, thickening the air until it felt like wading through a swamp. It wasn't merely fear, it was an existential horror, the realization that the boundaries between the mortal realm and the demonic had been irrevocably blurred. The entity's eyes seemed to bore into the very soul, promising an eternity of torment. The room itself began to change, warped by the malignant force now unleashed. The faded wallpaper peeled away to reveal unsettling murals depicting scenes of apocalyptic mayhem, each more terrifying than the last. The floor seemed to pulsate, as if breathing, the very house animated by some unholy life force. The nebulous entity extended what could only be described as a hand, if such a malevolent force could possess such a human characteristic. It reached for the spot where the ancient book had been, its form becoming more distinct, feeding off the dark energies swirling through the room. The individual who had invoked this horror stood frozen, trapped in a moment that felt like an eternity. It was as if time itself had ceased, waiting for the entity's next move, a move that would determine the fate of not just one soul, but countless others ensnared in the covenant. Just as the entity's form was on the brink of becoming concrete, a jarring sound echoed through the room, reverberating from the walls and shattering the atmosphere of impending doom. It was the clock striking 12:01 a.m., marking the end of All Hallows Eve. As if jolted by the tolling of the bell, the figure hesitated. The room, so altered and corrupted moments before, seemed to hold its breath. Could it be that even this malevolent being was bound by the constraints of time and the rules of its dark covenant? Realization dawned on the individual who had unleashed this abomination. In the seconds ticking away, they understood that they had been granted a brief but crucial window of opportunity, a moment where the demonic force was vulnerable. Mustering courage from the depths of their being, the individual lunged for the ancient book, which had reappeared when the clock struck. With every ounce of willpower, they chanted a counterspell inscribed in the book's final pages, reversing the ritual they had so recklessly initiated. As the final words were spoken, a guttural scream erupted from the entity, its form disintegrating into a mist of darkness. The room lightened. The walls resumed their original, less menacing form. The weight of countless tormented souls lifted, if only a fraction, as the clock continued its inevitable march towards dawn. With the malevolent force vanquished, Sarah fell to her knees, trembling, a mixture of relief and guilt washing over them. She was acutely aware that the tenuous boundary separating this realm from that of unspeakable horrors had been mended, but at what cost? Looking at the ancient book, now closed and seemingly inert, she wondered if it had all been a figment of her imagination. Yet the room, despite its restored appearance, bore subtle scars, a faint stench of sulfur, a discolored patch on the floor where the entity had materialized. These were reminders that the demonic realm was never truly locked away. It was merely separated by the thinnest veil of reality. In that instant, a newfound sense of purpose surged within her. No longer would she dabble in forces she didn't fully understand. No longer would she put countless souls at risk. Rather, she would devote herself to safeguarding this precarious balance between realms, fully understanding the weight of her newfound duty. The book was carefully returned to its sealed chest, protected by locks and wards designed to keep out those not prepared for its dark contents. It would be entrusted to guardians better equipped to handle its malevolent power, while she began her journey toward becoming one of those guardians. As dawn broke, casting its first light into the room, a sense of normality returned. But somewhere, deep in the shadows, the eyes of other entities flickered, biding their time and awaiting another opportunity to break through. For now, however, a fragile peace had been restored.